So before we get started, you're allowed to say whatever you want.
Okay.
It's really just opinion.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong answers, so whatever you say, it's good to go. So, are you aware of what cultural appropriation is?
Yeah, I am.
Yes.
I would say more or less.
Do you know what cultural appropriation is?
I don't. Okay, cultural appropriation, is that when you assign like someone, like you're talking about a topic and you assign it to like a certain culture?
What I think it is when you sort of take another culture's customs or, sort of like aesthetic cultural elements and kind of use them out of context or like within a culture that isn't necessarily complimenting them, or more so just sort of using them in a sort of like stylish way, not really like paying a ton of respect to the culture itself that you're appropriating.
I think it's when a culture takes another person or another culture's culture and the way that they use or represent it is not in a way that's appreciating it. They're just mostly doing it for like just fun, or they don't really care about what the meaning is behind all of it.
Cultural appropriation. Is that like shoving your culture onto somebody else?
So the actual definition of cultural appropriation is when a culture takes from another culture without really respecting their beliefs or knowing anything about what they take. I'm going to give you a couple examples of just mainstream artists who culturally appropriate, and I want you to let me know if you think it's appreciation or just cultural appropriation. So the first one's Pharrell Williams wearing a Native American headdress.
In that case, I would probably say that was appropriation.
I think so too.
Native Americans are specifically pretty oppressed people and like historically have been. So if it were, I'm not saying like if it were like another culture that like hadn't been oppressed, it would be like more okay, but that just sort of compounds.
That is a cultural appropriation.
And you want to say like why?
Because he's wearing something, it doesn't really, like, obviously he doesn't take part in any of the Native American traditions or practices, and so for him to be doing that, it seems just kind of out of character. I guess just for a fashion move, I guess.
Right.
But I guess it could be disrespectful to the Native Americans that are wearing it for certain purposes.
I'd say yes in the way that he was doing it. I feel like he was just wearing it for fun because it looked cool, like on the red carpet, just fit with like his style or whatever, but he wasn't really like recognizing all the meaning behind the headdress or what it means to the culture that he took it from.
I feel like he could be appreciating the culture. I wouldn't think, he seems like a really nice guy. I wouldn't think that he would be like trying to shove, like, I don't know, like steal somebody's culture. But also, Native Americans have gotten a lot of crap from our country and kind of putting them on a national magazine, unless it has something to do with Native American, like, appreciation or Native American funds, or maybe something that has some semblance. But no, that seems like cultural appropriation.
Post Malone's appearance, like his tattoos, his cornrows that he gets sometimes, his sweet grill, like do you think he is taking from black culture without really appreciating what they're doing?
I think a lot of current African American culture has to do with like the representation of like drugs and poverty and stuff, and that's something that a lot of white people can also grow up in.
Right.
So even if they haven't necessarily had like the African American background, they can be like raised in those kind of things, if that makes sense.
I kind of see it as more of like, sort of like an urban culture, more so than it is about race necessarily.
Right.
Obviously like the cornrows, that's more of a like, that's more like traditional and indicative of like African American culture.
I don't know. I mean, I would say he probably is culturally appropriating. I guess if it offends the people that like have those traditions with like wearing cornrows, then I guess it could be considered cultural appropriation.
I think some people can be like really extra about it. Like I get like I can see like where he's coming from. Like he's trying to like fit in the culture that he's in like now. Like he's going from like he's a white person for sure, and he's coming in to this very black dominant area in the rap game, and he wants to fit in and want to be seen as like cool and stuff. So he's doing all this stuff. Because honestly, if you saw some like basic white dude like rapping, like he wouldn't take him seriously. But he got all these tattoos and these dreads, and now he's making a lot of money. So I can see where he's coming from.
I feel like he would definitely get that vibe from him. And I feel like I actually gave him that vibe first. And I was like, "Ah, this dude seems strange,"
You're like,
but
who's this guy?
he seems to really be appreciating it.
So, do you think that's less acceptable or more acceptable if celebrities take fashion from other cultures compared to just normal people?
I think they have definitely a platform, so they could do a lot with it if they're sending the right messages. It really depends on what they're trying.
What
Get
the reason
across?
behind?
Yeah,
it?
what the reason behind them could be doing anything. Like I know a lot of people at Coachella always wear like kind of like tribal kind of things. Like a lot of their jewelry pieces are like very, I don't know. I know a lot of people have gotten backlash from that. How they'll wear like the little, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a little jewel that Indian people wear.
Oh yeah.
And I know like that's not usually, they have no idea where it comes from.
Yeah,
They just
they
know it
don't know
looks
the
cool.
meaning
I think they're criticized more.
Yeah.
I don't think it's technically less acceptable. I just think they have to be more careful about it.
I don't think it's really any more acceptable between a celebrity or a regular person doing it. I just think celebrities get noticed more because there's always going to be someone that's going to pick it out of like some video or like their Instagram post or something, call them out about it, and it's going to pick up steam, and there's going to be all these articles about it. But a regular person who walk down the street and someone could call them out about it, and then they just move on with their day. Like they're not going to have some like, not going to do like some serious like back work trying to like ask people for forgiveness and stuff. So I don't really see there's any difference between acceptability. It's more of like how they're noticed.
No, I don't think it's more or less appropriate. I think it's under more of a microscope when celebrities do it, because then you have everyone like, because maybe some like the guy who does it in whatever part of the world, like, or we'll say a guy wearing cornrows, it might not be to like the region. They might be like, oh cool, that's whatever. But if like Post Malone does it, people from all regions across the United States or across the world are like, okay, no, he's like cultural appropriation.
Okay, do you think men and women are criticized alike for cultural appropriation?
Criticized alike for culture.
Like, do men get away with it more? Or do women get away with it more?
Honestly, I don't. I would say no. I don't really know that.
Definitely, we probably see that more. There's that classic sort of like festival culture, like with the girls doing like a ton of henna tattoos or
Oh, yeah.
dresses and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's like what my mind goes to when I think of the term.
Yeah, I'd say they're criticized pretty equally. I feel like women can get it a lot more though, just because I just feel like they do. Like especially like with festivals and stuff, like Coachella, like that was a huge thing like, a couple years ago. Like the stuff that people like they wear like the bindi like dot on their forehead or like headdresses and stuff. So I feel like women get caught on it a little bit more than men do.
Honestly, I would have thought that women would have gotten away with it less. Like men would have gotten away with it more. So I was kind of surprised that Pharrell is your first person. And
Yeah.
Post, I was like, oh, I definitely thought it was gonna be like girls at Coachella. I was like, definitely think of like women first, like
Right.
because they're like fashion icons. But so are guys now
Yeah.
too.
Do you think there's a fine line between appreciation and cultural appropriation?
I would say there is a line between it. Yeah. I don't really know what would justify appreciation. I guess maybe if they did it and they say like, okay, well, I'm doing this to show appreciation for this culture or for this practice.
I think even within context though, there's a very fine line, because I'm imagining like people in America celebrating Cinco de Mayo, which is like a Mexican like holiday, and Americans kind of celebrate it more than Mexicans do at this point.
Yeah.
And like people can celebrate it and actually be like, this is like amazing, good for Mexico, this is their history, and like you could like do like Mexican customs to celebrate that in a good way,
Mhm.
or you can just like be like partying and just for the sake of it and like kind of like bashing like this big historical event in Mexico.
Yeah.
And like that's like appropriation, but some people like can't celebrate it very well and like be like supporting it in that way, and that's
Yeah.
like all within the same context.
I think there is a fine line, but I do think like people start to blur with it because some people are like really triggered by like every little thing. They feel like black people should only do this and white people can only do this, and like different cultures can only do this and this and this. But I feel there is like a line like between appropriation and appreciation. Like
I think there is a fine line because, or honestly, it depends on how radical you are. I guess if you're like very appreciative of it, you would be wanting to tell people that all the time. Appropriation, I feel like, can definitely be misconstrued as appreciation in the people's mind. Like they'll think that, oh yes, I'm appreciating this culture, but honestly, they're not. They're not even talking about the culture when they wear it. They're just making a fashion statement. So I think if you want to make a statement with your words, you're appreciative. If you want to make a statement with just your clothes, you're probably appropriating.
Do you think cultural appropriation is a huge problem in society, or do you think people blow it up more than what it needs to be?
I didn't think it was a huge problem until pretty recently, actually, probably like a year ago. And then it would seem to be like everywhere. And I was like, whoa, maybe I do need to be more conscious. But also, I do think people blow it out of proportion. Or perhaps, maybe not. Maybe it's just the people in the culture who are like, hey, we're tired of seeing this happen.
Right.
We should probably say something.
I think people blow up a lot over stuff that I wouldn't find like a big deal, but if it's a big deal to that person and it's a big deal to like that culture or that race or that just tradition or practice, then I guess we should take note of that, and we should do as little as possible to offend other people. And so I guess it just kind of depends on the situation and who you're offending and to what level you're offending them.
I don't know. I just think that it's one of those things where the only people who should probably be speaking about it are the people that it directly affects.
Yes.
I think it's been blown up. I don't think it's like a huge problem. I think there's like definitely people out there that should definitely call it out on what they're doing, and it's wrong. But I also feel like some people need to like take a step back and realize that not everyone is doing this with like wrong intentions. Like not everyone's super racist. Some people just really like something about some culture. They want to use it and they want to appreciate it, but they feel uncomfortable nowadays because someone's going to call them out about it.
What do you think is the ideal way to minimize or even extinguish cultural appropriation?
I definitely feel like talking about it. I feel there's not going to be any way to really get rid of it nowadays because there's different groups of people and everyone's uncomfortable now. And so something's always going to be wrong. But I feel like definitely like talking about it more and like figuring out. I don't think we're ever going to be able to come up with like one standard of like what's right and what's wrong. There's always going to be a gray area. So I feel like just sorting it out openly in a very calm way instead of like just getting like really angry would be the best way probably.
We should definitely like stay away from exoticizing all these cultures, but also there just like needs to be, I feel like, a bit more grace for people that have a like pure heart.
But I feel like it's hard to minimize people critiquing it at this point because we're just like so deep in that.
Yeah.
That like, and it's such like I feel like we'd have to go to every single person like critiquing and be like, this is where you're wrong, you need to fix yourself, and you like can't do that with these thousands of people.
Right.
So I feel like as a whole, we're like a little in too deep to do like big things about it.
Asking around, seeing like, okay, is this cool if I do this? What are like the pros of this? What are the cons of this? And just getting everyone to have a dialogue about it.
This is the last question. What do you think is the ideal way to minimize or even extinguish cultural appropriation? Because it's obviously a negative thing. Nobody likes it.
Yeah. Man, that's a tough question.
I can give you a good example. Jeremy Lin, you know who Jeremy Lin is? He's like the only Asian basketball player that's in the NBA right now. Now, he actually has dreadlocks.
Okay.
And before he got the dreadlocks, he asked a lot of his friends, a lot of his former, a lot of his teammates and stuff. And he was like, is it okay if I get these dreadlocks? And they were like, yeah, it's fine. You can do whatever you want. It's just a hairstyle. So do you think that that's a way that could be...
Yes. I think that you pointed out, like, definitely, if you're conscious of the fact that it could be, and you're going out and seeking questions and seeing like, hey, this might be a concern, let me get a feeler out there. Then that in itself seems to be dealing with it, because you're not just flying off the handle doing whatever you want.
Right.
You're actually thinking about other people and how it might affect other people other than yourself.
Okay, well, that's it. Thank you very much. That's pretty much it, dude. Thanks a lot.
Sweet, yeah. Were you walking around looking for someone?
Yeah, dude, you saw me. Okay, that's it.